Hello guys, and welcome to this new episode of Web Trip. Today we are interviewing Alex and Olivier from the Distributed Gallery. So let's get started. So hey Alex, hey Oliver. So the first question of this interview will be, could you please introduce yourself?
So I'm Alex, I'm 34, and I live in Rennes in France. I had an academic, let's say, career in the past. Now, let's say I devote myself to the distributed gallery and various artistic projects, especially in the field of crypto art.
And what about you, Oliver?
Yeah, so on my side, I'm Olivier. I'm French, obviously. I live between Rennes and Douarnenez. I also have an academic background. Actually, I am a teacher at the university at Rennes in social sciences, a part-time teacher, and the rest of the time I work on Web3 projects in the field of digital art the past years. But I've been working on other type of projects before.
Awesome. And what is your lifestyle, hobbies? Because apart from your work, could you please touch on this?
I don't think my lifestyle is my form of life, let's say, is super sexy because I'm some sort of a territorial animal, I think. So I often repeat the same thing all the time, much like a rabbit or a magpie, something like this. Oh yeah, I always go on the same place, same beaches, same seagulls, same town. I'm very in love with my homeland here, Brittany, and yeah, I spend all my time there. And my hobbies are almost the same thing I repeat all the time. So it's just chess, tennis, sea fishing, like repetition.
I do surf, so it takes most of my free time when there are good swells. Surf is my main, hobby.
So that takes us to our next question, which will be, so traveling, hanging out with your friend, having this type of lifestyle. And what is your vision of the world?
I would say that I have a pessimistic view of things right now. I mean, if someone asked me, what is your vision of the world in the sense of what is your diagnosis? I'd say I'm a pessimist because, the earth is being murdered by capitalism and our cities are filling up with old people trying to run over us with the SUV. So I would say that, and the turn taken by the state actually is clearly fascist one. So yeah, I'm clearly pessimist, but I mean being a pessimist is just being clairvoyant. That being said, it's not black or white. I'm a bit optimistic about the possibility we have to do various struggle, and struggle that maybe, or taking part to action that often and give us pleasure, I would say. Yeah.
This is the spark, the little spark in your vision.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Olivier?
But I try to fight against that because I feel like it blocks your action and your ability to actually act upon it. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to find, kind of way in this. I struggle to achieve it actually, but I try. Yeah, I'm not super optimistic. I mean, there is the ecological issue, of course, which is decisive one. But on the short term, I'm even more concerned about the fascist turn that politics is taking these days in Europe, but also everywhere. So it's kind of hard precisely because it makes it super hard to actually fight against what's happening. Mm-hmm. Because time you try, you just get bitten the shit out of you. So, it's super complicated. But yeah, I'm trying to, I'm trying to enjoy my life. I'm quite lucky actually. So I try to enjoy it and share that with the people close to me.
So this is also a professional podcast. We want to understand what do you do for a living, but who you are as an individual. And I love to people that are able to explain their job to a 5-year-old or a kid. So if you had to explain your job or what you're doing currently to a kid, how would you explain it?
I would say what we're trying to do is to shape worlds, to design worlds, which are going to make the real world feel weird, kind of. It's like, we live in this world on a day-to-day basis and we don't even think about it. And through art and through mechanism design or protocol design, I think the idea is to make it so that your own world feels kind of weird, like an anthropologist, when we go to super strange communities, you're like, oh, what the fuck are they doing? That's super weird. That's super weird. They believe in that. They believe in that. But we actually do the same. We just don't, realize it because this is our world. And I think what we're trying to achieve with protocol art is to make our own world feel weird too.
You mean the world of like the physical world, or?
No, the social world, like
The social world, okay.
world, for instance, one of the first artwork we worked on with the Chaos Machine, it was kind of a weird crypto jukebox where you had to burn bills to actually play music and also put another track in the machine. And, like money is exactly this kind of thing, which when you think about it is actually super weird, but we don't think about it, just need something and you pay for it. And I think the idea with this machine was to say, oh, what the fuck, I can actually burn this bill. It's pointless because it only plays a song, and of course you don't need this kind of machine to think about that, but suddenly it makes, the whole idea of money and, paper money feel kind of weird and just made out of thin air and paper, and the whole witchcraft appears suddenly out of it. And you start seeing it as a witchcraft thing, which you don't otherwise. So yeah, that's an example.
I see myself as an artistic director. So like basically we develop ideas, we design protocol and we design machine. So, and then for the rest of the time, I just like build connection with other folks in the Web3 art ecosystem. So I just like basically spend most of my time chatting with people and writing documents and stuff like that. Also doing some communication, doing videos and so on.
Can you present the project? Can you tell us more about it? Like, what is the idea? What is the vision? And we would love to hear about it.
So basically, what we started in 2017, I think. It all started out of a joke we had with Alex and a couple of other friends who are also part of the distributed gallery. And basically, it was before NFTs were a thing. There was no standards for non-fungible tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. And we just had that idea of just building a non-fungible token out of an ERC20, so a regular fungible currency. And the idea was to say, okay, let's take what is the most fungible stuff in the world and make it a piece of art, and let's try to sell it and stuff like that. It kind of escalated quickly because we introduced ourselves as Richard Prince being a famous artist. And so there was a whole tragedy or dramaturgy between us and the US. We were invited in a gallery thinking we were Richard Prince. Then Richard Prince's manager were aware of that, so he found our number, he called us, super angry. Finally, we talked with him, he understood the idea, he found it was fun. He was like, oh, maybe Richard could be a part of it, of this trick, kind of, but finally not, eventually not, stuff like that. So again, it all started out of a joke, and we took that name of the distributed gallery precisely because we needed some, exposure space or something like that. That's how it all started. And then we built a couple of other artworks, the Chaos Machine, which is some kind of a crypto jukebox where you burn bills. The one Outbound Dimanche, and now we are working on another project called Aside, which basically locks your NFT until an event occurs in the outside world. It can be, for instance, a meteorological event, like your NFT will be locked until a wave of 6 meters high hit the shore of Brittany. Your token will be locked until the public sentiment over artificial intelligence reaches that threshold, for instance, stuff like that. The idea is to kind of stop the forces of the market and play with the forces of the market and just recreate some kind of a weird relationship between the market and the external world. And trying to play with this idea that normally the market is weird stuff because it's kind of a closed apparatus. It's a closed mechanism which only refers to itself, and it used not to be that way a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to just recreate some links between the outside world and the art market. And we rely on Oracle's technology to do that. So basically we have oracles which feed data on the Ethereum blockchain, and these data decide whether or not the token can be unlocked. So that's the kind of stuff we play with. And we have other projects on the go, but maybe they're still secret, so we won't talk about it to make sure no one steals the idea.
No, yeah, you can present quickly something like we also have the scene market. But the scene market will be some sort, you can imagine it as some sort of a peer-to-peer confessional, a way to confess yourself, but it will be a peer-to-peer confessional based on prediction market mechanism. So the idea is to inoculate some sort of money game in the act of confession, but it's going to be a surprise.
And basically you confess the shit you've done and you try to put a price on it. And the crowds decide whether or not you lock that money, and the crowd, and it's going to be lost, whatever happens, because you did some shit.
It reminds me of the secret box at Burning Man. There is this box where people actually leave their dirtiest or unspeakable secrets, and actually people do art out of these secrets. So that's kind of a very related art project that I really like. Very cool. And Olivier, you mentioned that NFT, which is fixed. Can you give me a concrete application that it could have in the art world? You especially mentioned Oracle. So what kind of data are you looking for here? Because I don't think this is methodological data. So do you have a concrete example in mind?
Yeah, actually we are working with 12 artists. There's going to be a couple of drops starting at spring in May. Mm-hmm. The first one is going to be with Obvious, that you may know, and Ibonatao.
Nice.
And so they are working on the public sentiment over AI. Basically, what we do is that we do analyze a bunch of hashtags on Twitter, and based on these hashtags, some are pro AI, some are anti AI, or we are going to be doomed by AI, stuff like that. And based on the analysis of those hashtags, we compute in some kind of real time score of the public sentiment over AI. And so each artwork is going to be tied to a different sentiment. And represent this sentiment, do we fear AI? Do we enjoy AI? Do we have hope in AI? And basically, to unlock each of this artwork, you're going to need to act when the actual public sentiment is going to be close to that threshold. But we have other artists, maybe Alice can give you a list afterwards, who are going to work on planetary movements. They are going to work on quakes, on financial data, stuff like that.
Super, super cool. So I love the social media feed Oracle response. And that's super interesting.
You can explain it to a kid like that, just by saying, this artwork is locked and cannot be sold until 5% of the Amazon basin is reforested. Or this artwork is locked and can only be sold if the US inflation falls below 1%. Or this artwork is locked and can only be sold if the magnitude 8 earthquakes strike at the Silicon Valley, or so on and so on. Which
the world collapse.
And did you create a Ethereum standard for it, or is that homemade? What is your recipe?
Actually, it's an ERC-721, so a regular NFT.
Okay.
But with a couple of tweaks into it, of course, to lock it and to interact with oracles. We use Chainlink oracles. It started in a regular ERC-721.
Okay. No, I just wanted to know if you went into because you told about protocol art and protocol design. So I was okay, maybe you created this novel kind of NFT, but
I would like to, but the process of normalizing a new standard is super long, and it does not really fit the timeline of an art project. So,
yes, that's complicated. That's for sure. So you've been working in digital art. Obviously, you have this next project, very exciting project coming out with Obvious and other super interesting artists. And how do you imagine digital art in the upcoming years? And what is your utopia? What is your dystopia when it comes to artistic expression?
Well, as I said before, I'm a pessimist. So I think regarding digital art, I think it's going to continue the way it is. And I think the luxury industry will take on more weight in the market. I think this should be in line with the way the world works, with a wealthy class that buys more and more useless things, I think. So I think the luxury industry will take more and more weight in the digital market. That's for sure. And regarding my utopia, because actually we are already in the dystopia, I think. But no, really, like I think really. And as far as artistic expression is concerned, I'd say that my utopia is not a new one. It will be that of Dada, and later the one of the Situationist, which consists of wanting to link art and life. And I would just like to take part in this program of linking art and life through the centralized protocol, like just basically what we are doing today. So I think my utopia is already in the process. In fact, we are trying to build it.
So
be your own utopia.
Be your utopia. Like, okay, you're working on your utopia to make it happen. Yeah. Okay, and what about you, Olivier?
Yeah, I think regarding the utopia, I'm close to Alex. Basically, I think because we're just, if I talk about like blockchain-based art or Web3 art, stuff like that, I think we're just in the beginning of it, and we have not yet fully explored what blockchain can be as a medium of artistic expression. Basically, we just, authenticate jukebox, stuff like that, which is cool for some reasons for some artists. But there is no incredible appropriation of what this new, medium can do to art, basically. And I think we are starting to play with it, especially through protocol. And we are not the only one. Terra is doing stuff like that also, and many other people actually. But so I think that path is really interesting to me because protocol-based nature of this kind of art makes it close to, embodying into the real life kind of, and that I really like it for the same reason that Alex. On the dystopian way, I think one of the directions it can take is that, everybody's going to try to sell its own shit, the Instagram way, basically, trying to find your audience and trying to sell your little, some NFT, basically that's the trick about NFT. It can actually monetize stuff which were not monetizable before. For the good part, it means that artists can live out of their art, and that's cool, where they couldn't do it before because, digital art is super hard to monetize, basically. The bad way is that it makes everything monetizable, especially the whole social media bullshit and influencer, landscape. And I think this path is going to be taken for sure, or in the metaverse or whatever they want to call it, if it ever happens. So yeah, I think this way is not going to be super fun. And this one will happen for sure.
No, but I love your answer because the obvious answer, you're working in crypto art, protocol art and this space, but I think one of the obvious answer for the dystopia will be related to generative art and like AI movement and like what is happening on that side. And so I thought it was interesting that you stayed focused, on the crypto art angle, and thank you for that because that's that's original. I think the goal of this podcast is as well to for young people joining the tech industry or wanting to work as a digital artist or to evolve in this new fast-pacing world, to get some inspiration. So thank you for what you said already. But what would you say to the youth as advice for the upcoming years? Like if you were talking to your younger self in this very fast-changing world, like what would be your advice to yourself, for instance?
I would only say good luck and be aware of power.
If I could giving an advice to young people, I don't feel like I'm authorized to do it. I think they do well without my old boomer advice. So, if I could give an advice to myself in the past, I'd say just take it easy and follow the flow. Don't try too much. It's not going to work. This is quite stressful, I think, I do teach at the university, so I am in touch with young people in their 20s. I feel like on lots of, stuff, they are way more smart than I think my generation were at their age, like relationship-wise, identity-wise, equality-wise. Most of them are not as, formatted, I guess, by the world. For some obvious reason, which is it's collapsing, so they can't buy it anymore. And also a lot of stuff happened in the meanwhile. And I think most of the youth is really, really smarter than we used to be. The trap they've been kind of taken in is that they put a lot of pressure on their shoulder, like, starting from school, they have to decide what they're going to do, what is going to be their like path, study, which work are they going to make, where are they going to make it. And each decision looks like it's super decisive, it's going to influence their whole life. And what I'm trying to tell them is, take a breeze and follow the flow, because whatever happens, you're not going to control your life. Follow your friends, follow your lovers, follow your patients, and just don't try to make too much plan. It's not going to work.
It's basically the story of the distributed gallery, for example, because it was not a plan. It was really, friends taking time together, listening to each other. So I think it's really, our story is this kind of story. It was not programmed, it was not planned. We were outside from the art world at the very beginning, and we just came in the art world because of friendship.
Yeah, but I'm also very inspired by younger people, and I went back to study this year just for a year, and I'm with people mostly between 18 and 21 years old, and I'm impressed, like really impressed. But exactly what you said about like the openness, like the progress, the listening, like the understanding, and that's my utopia personally. So next question will be like, and it can be a hard one as well, but do you have anyone you do actually admire, that inspire you, that actually makes you motivated to go and work on the distributed gallery, for instance, a role model or some sort?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I'm much of a hero person, but maybe I just don't like fetishes. The question reminds me of the most beautiful answer I ever heard to this question, which was a question put to Magnus Carlsen, the greatest chess player in history. When asked by a journalist who is his favorite player, he replied, "My favorite player from the past is, well, probably myself 3-4 years before." Which is remarkably arrogant, but you don't have to be arrogant, On my side, I think anonymous people like Satoshi or many anonymous people on the internet or who struggle every day, I don't know the name, maybe inspired me. I don't know. I don't really have a name to put on this question.
So apart from yourself, you like anonymous people. Thank you. I mean, Satoshi and like all these people working behind the scene, and actually they are the true heroes, like the one you don't know the names. So, but Olivier, come on, you're welcome to say, I don't know, like anyone. It's okay if it's not yourself or Satoshi Nakamoto.
It's not myself for sure. even me from like 3 years ago, it's not that guy either. I have a sympathy for anonymous people just because they are abstract, so they can't disappoint me, kind of.
There is this myth as well, like they are not even human in a sense, because this is so abstract. They just embedded a concept, and it's very easy to fall in love or to be like very attached to a concept. Yeah. And we don't know, like maybe Satoshi is actually like a pretty bad human being, We don't know that, and because of the mystery, we actually are able to, respect his work and legacy. Another question, which is something that we actually like, is do you have a question to pass along to the next interviewee?
What the fuck are you doing here? No, what are you doing in the crypto landscape? It's just more of a joke. Because the crypto landscape has evolved a lot since we entered it, when was that? 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. It was way more punk and anarchist than it is today, because, it went mainstream, and the whole people who make the crypto space are not the same anymore. And it used to be even more radical before. So, yeah, I think it's tough. Well, not tough, but it's weird for everyone because it's changing pretty quickly.
We have a question for our last interviewee. Are you ready for it?
How do you balance accessibility and decentralization in tech?
We don't.
We don't. Okay.
Those days we mostly work on artistic projects, so the question is not exactly the same, because it's an artistic project. You don't have to scale or whatever you want to call it. And when we used to work on more regular projects, because we didn't talk about that, but we worked with Aragon to build DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, for a long time. We were a team part of Aragon, actually, at some point in time. The question was, and we built other projects in the meanwhile, the question was really complicated. And I feel like this is a super complicated question because I think the question is mostly legal at that point, because Basically, if you want to make it super usable, you have to introduce some part of centralization. And if you introduce a part of centralization, you become accountable of what your project is working on, and you become legally responsible for what you're doing. And it's not the same at all, Like, the same. If I just spawn a decentralized project, like the Satoshi way, basically, I don't give a shit about the legal issues because it's everyone, it's not just me. As soon as I do introduce a little bit of centralization for the sake of user friendliness, I do take responsibility for the whole project, and it makes everything way harder to, handle. So I think the main question about usability is the legal one, actually. If you want to be user-friendly, you have to be legally compliant, and it makes everything way more complicated. If you want to go the punk way, let's say.
Thank you for that, Olivier. Alex, do you have any thought on that?
I will have almost the same answer, saying that it's extremely complicated from, let's say, a scalability point of view. I mean, this question of accessibility is really linked to a whole series of design and market phenomena and, protocol definition, jurisprudence, and so on. So
those days becomes easier and easier because you have L2s, you have super user-friendly wallets and stuff like 5 or 4 years ago. It was a real nightmare because there was no L2s, gas fee were a real issue. There was no easy-to-use wallets. There was no unramping of any sort. Now I think even though there is still some way to go, it's way, way, way easier to find some kind of a balance at low cost than it was even 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
I mean, we're definitely improving, and I'm personally very hopeful that we're going to find some ways to balance these two concepts, the founding, true detrimental, and the ideas of decentralization. But it was indeed a tough question. You can thank the Isaac Patka, and you can check his interview soon on the platform. I think he was, but he answered the question as well. So that's the thing. He also answered the question. It was a super nice meeting you guys and learning more.
It was nice looking with you.